Nobody would have thought that I would be the one. Rhyner, sports talk. Baseball, 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 baseball.
Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We got a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
The Texas Rangers win the World Series.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip?
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off sake.
This is a cool night or what?
Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
Well, hey, everybody. It is another episode of Your Dark Companion. Glad to have you with us. No matter where you may be, no matter when you may be consuming this podcast, be it live now or somewhere down the road, however they do that sort of thing. YouTube, Spotify, wherever the hell it goes after this. This is the 26th of June. This is episode number 128 of Your Dark Companion. You can probably tell we have wandered far beyond the nurturing biosphere of the mothership. Instead, we are here inside Globe Life Field, the home of the Texas Baseball Rangers, and we are sitting in, I guess, what they call a field level suite. Mm-hmm. All right. And today with us, we have the Chief Business Officer of the Rangers, Jim Cochrane.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, we're kind of making a circle through the executive suite. We had Angie Swint a few weeks ago. We got Jim today. You guys are being very generous with little YDC here, and we do appreciate that.
Great to be on with a Hall of Famer.
That was a long time ago, though.
Still counts.
Still counts.
Well, you must be living the life, because I've been reading up on you, and this all started because you like baseball.
I do like baseball, yes.
And when you were a kid, you liked baseball.
In fact, I did. My parents drugged me to Arlington Stadium probably 1978. Little 5-year-old Jimmy Cochrane going to a game and fell in love with the sport. Realized in probably high school that I wasn't good enough to play at this level. Mm-hmm. And so the next best thing is to work for the team. So here we are.
And how did you set about that task?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I went to University of Oklahoma. I thought I wanted to be a landscape architect. I found out after 2 years I did not want to do that and that I wanted to work in sports, so I changed my major. As you can imagine, some of those credits don't transfer as you move over to journalism and public relations.
I can see that.
So I had to do what I affectionately call my redshirt senior year, one extra semester in Norman. That summer when I came home between when I should have graduated and my extra semester, my mom tells me, hey, I need you to drive me out to the ballpark. I'm auditioning to sing the national anthem.
Ooh.
I said, okay, this wasn't strange to me. My mom has a master's degree in singing. She'd ventured on this before. So I drive her out to the affectionately you call the temple and sat out in the hot sun as her and about 25 other people auditioned. They selected her to sing. About a week before I was supposed to go back for my final semester is the date that she was selected to sing. When they were playing the Toronto Blue Jays, and we walked down on the field about 15 minutes before national anthem time. The woman that walked us down making small talk with us, and she says, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm still in school. She said, what are you going to do when you graduate? I said, how do I get a job like yours? She said, well, most people have to start as interns. I said, well, I've heard this. She said, we have a hard time finding them. I thought, that's crazy. What do you mean? She goes, well, we need somebody that can start in January, work through October. I said, well, that's great. I graduate in December. I'd be happy to start with you in January. They kind of laugh, send me a resume. And so I come for an interview. The great Dave Fendrick I interviewed with, he was the GM for the Round Rock Express for a number of years, working for Nolan and Reed and those guys after this. I go in for this interview, and he says, all right, why don't you give me 10 days? I'm going to interview some other folks. I call him 10 days later, and he says, I've been so busy, I haven't had time to interview anybody else. Can you start on Tuesday? So I showed up on Tuesday, and I've never left.
Look at all the look at all the fortuity in that story.
That's what it's all about, right?
I mean, just because he got real busy and couldn't interview anybody else, probably forgot about the whole thing. And then when you rang him back up, he said, "Come in, let's start."
I got to have an intern. Here we go. So that's how it started. And I thought that I would just take this internship in corporate partnerships, and I wanted to be the PR guy. I wanted to be John Blake, I thought.
Uh-huh.
And then I got here, and I thought, wait a second, this area is pretty fun. So that's where we started. So year of internship, and then I started, they said, you want to work full-time and sell sponsorships? I said, I've never done that before. The great Mike Phillips said, I'll teach you how to do that. I said, okay, great. So him and Charlie Seraphin, off we went. They were the head honchos at the time, and I started working for them and started selling all this signage and everything you see out here.
What are the ins and outs of selling sponsorships?
It's not too far from dating. You get told no a lot, right?
Yeah.
That
I'm familiar with.
Yeah. So, you got to have thick skin. But you call a lot of companies and you sell them on the benefits of being associated with a franchise like the Texas Rangers. And what happens with that is when our fans see somebody out here, it takes a brand to a different level. And purchase consideration and things like that change significantly. And so that's part of it. It's brand exposure. It's all those kind of things. So I did that for probably a little more than 20 years. And then a few years ago, ownership said, hey, would you oversee all of our revenue, which means ticketing? So we took on that adventure. And then last year they said, hey, would you oversee all the business operation of the team?
At what point in there was the first time you just sort of swallowed hard and said, "Holy S"?
Well, there's a number of them, right? When you're building a new ballpark and you gotta sell the naming rights. We think we're the only franchise that's ever gotten a naming rights partner to go from one building to the next. In a new deal too. They didn't just move their deal over here. So we've had great partners with Globe Life. But did the deal in 2013 is when we started over there. Maybe it was 2014. Changed the name, and then a new deal over here with them, and so we're excited that that's there. But that's big stuff that you do it. But then when you realize that there's an awful lot going on here, is kind of the first time you do that.
Now, you've also been involved in many regimes, several ownership changes. People coming, people going, all of that, and that's what's navigating that been like?
Yeah, when I started with the Rangers, so Tom Schieffer was running the team. He was team president, one of the owners. That was the Rusty Rose George Bush group that owned the team. Mm-hmm. When they sold to Tom Hicks, I was low enough on the totem pole that they don't worry about people at that level when it changes. Then when Tom bought the team is kind of when we learned how to sell and do those kind of things. But you remember, we were coming out of bankruptcy when our current ownership group bought the team.
Yes.
And so was selling sponsorships in a big way there, but they needed bodies at that time. And so the new group took over, and Chuck Greenberg was involved for a little while, and of course Nolan was on board. And so we just kept plugging along and kind of doing our thing. So, keep your head down and show up with a great attitude every day, work hard, and try to generate revenue such that, at the time JD, but now CY and Ross, they got some money to go spend on the squad on the field.
Now, the ownership of the Rangers, like you say, has changed over the years. The guys that own the team now, we very seldom see and very rarely hear from.
Yeah.
I suspect you're in a little bit closer contact with them than we might be.
In fact, I hung up with Ray right before I walked into this suite. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, I speak to them frequently. So very in tune with what's going on, what they want the franchise to be, what we're trying to accomplish here, and understand how they like us to operate in that regard.
Now, Ray is, you hear from him, see him occasionally. But Neil Liebman.
Yeah.
Man, you talk about a ghost. I mean, he is. I mean, I don't know if I could pick him out of a lineup.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the more talkative one.
Is he?
Oh yeah, for sure. So he's great. They're both great. They operate differently as far as how things go. Just in talkative and how they kind of operate and whatnot. But it's great to have that. that difference between
Yeah,
the two of them.
sure.
Yeah.
Got to have a little back and forth.
Yeah, no question.
Is there a third guy involved?
No, I mean, we have limited partners
Yeah.
that are part of it too, but day in and day out, it's those two gentlemen that are steering the ship, and we try to go make it happen.
It does feel like the owners have gotten more comfortable collaborating and all that. It feels like when maybe they first started 10 years ago or so that they tended to be a little bit more background and all that. And, maybe I'm wrong, but just as I've kind of been working with the team, it feels like they've gotten more comfortable, more confident in just what the experience should be, just basically how everything, they would like to see out of the team on the field and off.
Yeah, no question. I mean, when a new owner buys a team, sometimes they don't know what all's involved with that. They've said before this is the most public-private business they've ever owned.
Yeah.
And effectively what it is it's you're a steward of the franchise on behalf of the fans. And so that's the way it operates. But when you first get into it, you don't always know the ins and outs. You've seen it with other owners, Steve Cohen with the Mets and some other ones that get into it, and then they settle in and understand how baseball works, how it may be different from another sports team that they own or whatnot, or different from running a business that they've run in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, of course they've gotten comfortable. They've owned the team for 15 years now, coming up this August. Bought it, as you remember, in August of 2010. And here we are in 2025. So I have owned it for a while and understand the ownership group has changed during that time frame too. There were others involved that have sold interest in the club and Ray's our majority owner and he calls the shots. So
in view of the fact that you've been around for previous ownerships and seen a lot come down, a lot of guys come and go and everything that goes along with that, do you find them leaning on you for guidance, or to tell them, look, I've seen this situation before. This is what happened. This is what we did with it. Do you get into that kind of situation with them a lot?
Yeah, a little bit. You've got to develop trust with them, of course,
Sure.
and what's going on. But on the day-to-day things that are along the lines of, running the sponsorship group, ticket pricing, things along that, they do lean on me. And we lean on a team that we have here, our business analytics team and others, to look at what the market's doing, look at, how our fan base is reacting, to look at how the team's playing. We look at a lot of those factors and try to determine how we're moving forward.
What's your sense on how the fan base is reacting these days?
We won a World Series, which is great. We have designs on doing that again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the plan. We, put a roster together. CY and Ross did a great job doing that. We've spent at a level. Ownership has committed dollars to them to spend at a level where we should be spending. I think we're all a little frustrated, everybody is, with how the offense has gone so far, but you're seeing some signs of coming out of that, and we've had such great pitching. The last two nights are a perfect example of that, which was the first time in franchise history we've taken no-hitters into the seventh inning on back-to-back nights. So excited about that. We do need the offense to come around, but I think you're seeing some signs of maybe that happening. In Minnesota, scoring 16 on two different occasions. On this road trip, going 4-2 on the recent road trip. We play well at home, so we're excited about that. And the team come in. I was telling a group of staffers that weren't around in 2015, but I looked this up. We were 6 games under 500 on July 20th in 2015. We make the trade, get Cole Hamels in here. We still kind of middling around in middle of August, but around 500. We ended up winning 88 games and won the division that year. So it can happen late. Baseball's a long season. You know this.
It is.
Yes,
I do.
You've probably
know
seen
this.
more games than I have. So
I do
know that it's a long season.
It's a long
Things can
season,
turn.
and you've got to let things play out. And it's never a good idea to knee jerk, but fans do that nonetheless. I'm sure you guys hear about it all the time. I certainly hear about it as I make my way around, and people are always wanting to talk about what's going on with the Rangers with me. But yeah, it's a long season, and it's not a sprint.
It is not. And on my side of the business, what we control is the experience the fans have when they show up every night. Did they get in the parking lot quickly and easily? Are the hot dogs hot? Are the beers cold? Is it 72 degrees in here? All those kind of things is part of what we have to make sure that we control, because we don't know what's going to happen on the field. And this, even the best teams are going to lose at least 60 games a year.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to win 60, you're going to lose 60. What do you do in the middle 60, right?
Right.
And we don't control that, every night. The players on the field do. And so we've got to make sure that the experience is the place clean, concessions great, good food offerings, getting in and out of here, in-game entertainment, which he's involved with. So
Oh, God.
those are the those are the things that we pay attention to, and then we try to let our world-class players go do their thing.
You know, this is a conversation I've had with many people when it comes to this place, when it comes to the ballpark that we're in here.
Yep.
A lot of people complain about it to me for this reason, that reason. I'm sure you hear a lot of that too. But I tell them that you guys were really forward-thinking in this because you recognized what's going on in this world, what's going on out there, what's going on with weather. And you, I think, read the room right in thinking that the masses were not going to want to come to the temple over there. Great as it is, great as it was, I still love that place, always will. But the masses were not going to come over there and sit out and watch a baseball game where at 9:20 at night, they're in the bottom of the fourth inning. It's 7-7. The Rangers have already run through the bullpen, and it's 91 degrees outside. They're just not going to want to do that.
Correct.
And you guys were just incredibly ahead of that game, incredibly proactive, and addressed it. And now here we are inside this place. And by the way, I love this place.
Yeah, and you know, part of the problem we were running into with that building was, as you'll recall, it was built with, you know, 1992 dollars and, you know, construction equipment and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
To stay on budget and what Tom Schiefer and that group did, it's a great building. But a lot of the infrastructure in that building was built to last 25 or 30 years, and we were starting to run up against that. And so as we looked around for what the building was going to need from an infrastructure standpoint, and even looked at a number of different ways on how to put a roof on that place, but it just wasn't built for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of money we were going to have to spend to do that, it didn't make sense. And so it made sense to come over here, build a new building, get some of the amenities, one of which we're sitting in right now, that we didn't have at the old place, that help us drive the kind of revenue that we need in order to, you know, have a great payroll and put a competitive team on the field. And so when we've had people in here, All-Star game last year is one of the examples, people who'd never been here before, when they actually come inside and sit in the building, we don't get a lot of complaints. It's a pretty nice place to watch a game, and we didn't build it for the players, we built it for the fans. And that's why it's, you know, 74 degrees. A lot of us are baseball purists. Baseball's meant to be played outdoors and all that.
Sure.
But to your point, you know, 95 degrees when the sun's gone down at 9 o'clock at night, we're only in the fifth inning. It's hard to stomach for the fans.
Yeah, you ask the people that complain about all that, when was the last time they were at any game for the Rangers? And there's usually some stuttering and, well, was this? Like, they generally haven't been going for a while either. They have their beliefs and all that, but they haven't been to a game in probably a few years.
Correct. And you saw it in Game 1 of the World Series when Seager hit that home run. This, even with the roof closed, this place can be a competitive advantage. It can be very loud.
That was one of the coolest things, I think, when I was working as the DJ back in 2020 for, you know, the empty season of
fake crowd noise.
Yeah, the fake crowd noise, testing out audio and all that, was even just when we got to the World Series and it was a quarter capacity, and hearing just how loud the crowd was for that, and knowing, okay, whenever we do get a packed house, especially something like Seager's home run, knowing how loud this place was going to be with the roof closed, that is absolutely an advantage.
No question. And Chuck talked about it a lot, that we need to make this place a competitive advantage. That's part of what we want to see out of the fans when they come out here. We got to give them reasons to cheer, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do that, we want it to be loud. We want the fans to act and create a home field advantage for us. And our guys like playing here. We typically, you know, have a pretty good record here in this building.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other regimes you worked for, because, you know, I was in the game back then when Tom Schiefer and his bunch were in charge. What are your memories of them, and what are your memories of that time?
Yeah, so I was new, wide-eyed, intern my first year, and then worked for about 2 more years when Tom was running the team. You know, baseball purist. His fingerprints are all over that building and everything that went in.
Mm-hmm.
You guys talked to him, interviewed him, all the way
did.
down to, you know, which faucet fixtures we were picking. He was involved in all those decisions. So love the sport, love the team. You know, that building, we finally get to the postseason, you know, right after it's built. Unfortunately, the year it opened, of course, was the year that the strike and there was no World Series. It would have been our first year to draw 3 million fans. but unfortunately we fell short and then didn't do it until we go to the World Series in back-to-back years. And then in 2012, of course, we sold out 38 games at the old place. And a lot of people, back to what you were talking about, would say, well, the fans came when it was hot back then, but that was also a time in the franchise where we had done things that had never happened before, and that probably wasn't sustainable over time. And, we didn't play great in 2014, had a lot of injuries, and then win the division again in 15 and 16, kind of get back to it. But, yeah, the Schieffer group, they ran the team well. We increased payroll. We re-signed Pudge. There were a lot of things that happened during that time that elevated our franchise to a level it had never been.
Yeah, and we did get to know him a little bit. In fact, we probably got to know Tom better than any of the other owners the Rangers have ever had. And there was never any question in my mind, never any kind of doubt that he was a baseball guy.
Purist.
He was a baseball fan.
No question.
And he gave a damn.
And I can remember the first time we took we had sold this deal to a company, and they had to mock up their outfield wall sign. And part of what we used to have to do was we'd give 3 options. They'd have to submit 3 different options, and he would pick the one that he liked and thought fit with the aesthetic of the ballpark.
Right.
And for a long time we did that. So
that kind of stuff mattered to him, didn't it?
No question. So, yeah, it was. But then my time underneath them, and again, I'm still trying to learn the business and figure out what was going on. And then they sold the team to Tom, and we merged with the Dallas Stars back then. And so Stars front office and Jim Lights and that crew and Jeff Kogan, Bill Strong ran the sponsorship group, and that's really when, for me personally, learned how to sell sponsorships and take it to a different level. We were selling hockey, we were selling baseball. That's right. The Stars ended up winning the Stanley Cup that year, right? The January that we merged was the year that they ended up winning the Cup, so we were kind of on the fringe of that. And then the next year selling it, and they went back to the finals, lose to the Devils that year. But that was a lot of fun. But for 2 straight years, I think I did 123, 125 events, 2 consecutive years. That's a lot of nights at sporting events.
There's a lot of nights at sporting events. And was it an unusual dynamic at all to have guys from one sport coming in here and, running another?
Yeah, I mean, and effectively what happened was Tom Hicks put the Stars folks in charge of all the different areas.
Yeah.
And so there was some education on the baseball side and why it's a little different out here in Arlington and open air than it is downtown and an arena and different things that went on. But a ton of great people came over from the Stars side too, and some of which worked with us for a long time. And Brad Alberts was part of that crew that came over, and of course he's the president and CEO back on the Stars now.
Right.
I worked directly for him for 10 years. We officed out of the ballpark, and so it was great for a lot of us.
On the podcast just a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I stay in contact with him. There's a lot of folks that we used to work with from the Stars Rangers days where we did both, and operating out of one place was, we did it here in Arlington. It was a little bit of a challenge, but getting downtown for games, of course, when we had the baseball games, you could just, walk out the door and you were right there. But it was a fun time. There was a lot going on. We owned the Mesquite Rodeo back then too.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Tom owned the rodeo. He owned Channel 39. There was a lot going on back in those days.
All right, who took it over after? Let's see, who came along after them?
Well, Tom Hicks owned the team. Then we split off the front offices from the Stars and the Rangers before the 04-05 hockey lockout, and he was going to sell the hockey team. You can't sell a team without a front office, so they told everybody pick a side. I stayed on the baseball side. We had a number of folks go to the hockey side, and then ultimately he ended up coming out of the lockout. There was a salary cap in hockey. He ends up holding on to the hockey team. We didn't fully merge the front offices back, but we did it in a number of areas. HR, finance, IT, and then sponsorship sales. We did both again for a while. And of course, the Stars, maybe 07, 08, I think, went to the Western Conference Finals. That was a fun little run. And then bankruptcy comes for both clubs, and I was on the baseball side at that point. And, this group bought it out of bankruptcy, and here we go.
Was there any thought of going over to the hockey side when you had that option?
Yeah, I mean,
if it was an option.
Yeah, I mean, you looked at it and said, hey, you look at it personally and say, what's the best option for your career?
Mm-hmm.
But the way it was set up and, going back to how we started this podcast of, I was a baseball guy from pretty young, that this is a sport. Mm-hmm. People ask me what my favorite part of the job is, and I tell them 7:05 every night. That's the best part of the job.
First pitch, man.
That's when we're putting on our show. again, going back to our show, off the field, but also on the field. And that's why it's so fun, because that's when we welcome all our fans out here. That's when they, get to make sure the hot dogs are hot, the beer's cold, and watch, some of the best baseball players on the planet do their thing.
Okay. I want to ask something.
Okay. I want you to ask something.
All three of us have worn bunny outfits in our professional adult lives. I'd like to know your story.
Well, I told you I was an intern for the Rangers.
Yes.
Interns have to do a lot of interesting things.
Those are the kind of things that interns do.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because we had two interns, and the other guy who was the intern was we had an exhibition game, and it happened to fall on Easter. And so our promotions team, the people that ran it, said, hey, we're going to have the Easter Bunny out. And something happened to this other kid that was the intern. He decided he's done being an intern, wasn't showing back up. So they said, Jim, guess what? You get to put on that costume. And I thought to myself, I'm not wearing that. But then again, you're the intern, and if you want to work here full time, you do what you're asked. So the funny thing was, they go get this bunny costume. It's like the last costume at this costume shop. So it's the most wheels-off bunny costume you've ever seen. It has mittens for hands, and I'm supposed to throw out the first pitch as part of being in costume here. So I put this thing on, and I'm a little taller than the costume, so the pants only come down to about here. And I'm sitting in my cubicle the day before trying to figure out if I can hold a baseball inside of this mitten that I'm wearing. And I realized, and I'm left-handed, so I realized I can hold it, okay. Well, then I put this head on, and there's these two eyes, and I can see this way and I can see this way, but you cannot see straight ahead of me. And so we do the parade, and all these kids are behind us around the warning track before the game, and then they're like, all right, it's time to go throw out the first pitch. And so I go march out to the mound, and I'd worked on holding the ball, and I get out there, and I realize I can't see Ed Napoleon. You remember he was our first base coach. He's catching the first pitch that day, okay? And so I get out there on the mound, and I realize I can't see Ed, so I took the head and turned it. So the bunny head's looking this way so I can look straight out of the right eye. And I told myself ahead of time, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to throw this thing as hard as I can. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm just going to try. So I wind up, and I threw this thing as hard as I could. The head kind of spins around. I have no idea what happened. So I walk up, and then Ed, you get a picture with the mascot and everything. I don't think we had a mascot back then, but you get a picture with Ed, and he's like, that's a pretty good throw. And he starts laughing, And so later that night, I go home, and I turn on SportsCenter. And if you remember, SportsCenter used to have that great montage when SportsCenter came on of all the day's happenings, and then they'd get into doing highlights, right? And I don't remember who it was. I don't remember which host it was, but the last picture in the montage is this Easter Bunny throwing the first pitch, right? And whoever it was, what was his name? Carl
Ravitch?
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember. One of them goes, who knew the Easter Bunny was left-handed? And then they got into SportsCenter. And so I can laugh about being in the bunny costume, but I ask how many people have thrown out a first pitch and were featured on SportsCenter because of that first pitch. So there's my bunny costume story.
Yeah. He's right up there with 50 Cent.
No, my pitch was good.
Yeah.
I got it
His
up there to
throw went a little bit better than 50.
So what he's trying to tell us is that's how he earned his job.
Yeah, 52 miles an hour, right on the black. It was perfect.
Do you throw from the mound?
Oh yeah,
I thought so.
We climb right up on the mound. We don't, but Easter bunnies don't mess around.
I know when I was dressed up as a bunny was only 2 years ago or so, and I was a professional and paid full time. But this was when we were at the Freak and we did the it's called Follow the Bunny.
Okay.
And I had to go around in a bunny outfit all over the Metroplex.
Yeah.
Trying to get people to find me.
Oh, and then they'd win some Rangers tickets or something.
something.
Sure. Yeah, that's fantastic.
So I felt very, very much like an adult.
Well, I don't know. I think we need Rhines' story about a bunny costume if we're all
still trying to figure out what his was. We know he wore one at one point.
Yeah, I did wear one at one point, but nobody can remember how, where, when, or why.
We checked in with Grego. Might have to check in with Expo now that we think about it. But it was.
If anybody's going to know, it's him.
But yeah, so we've all worn bunny outfits, and we're all on microphones right now.
That's right. I've got a picture of it somewhere, but it'd probably take me a little bit to find it. So
we can always add it in post.
That's great.
So what did you think the first time somebody came to you and said, what would you think about being the chief financial officer here?
Yeah, I mean, as your career advances, you think about, okay, where can I go? I never dreamed as an intern number one, that I would have a full-time job in sports, although that's kind of what I hoped. And so internship, and they said, hey, you want to work here full-time? And then honestly, it was just, this is the team I grew up rooting for. This is the job that I wanted, and I showed up with the attitude of I'm going to do everything I can to make sure nobody tells me to go do something else. And so that's kind of what I show up with every day. And then at some point in your career, you kind of realize and think, hey, maybe this is an option. Maybe the next step's an option for me. And then eventually it was just, hey, be the person that kind of runs the sponsorship team, because we've got 14 people in our sponsorship group.
Yeah.
And, and we've got a senior vice president that's in charge of that, and they do a great job here helping us generate revenue. But at one point it was like, that's the job. And I didn't really look beyond that. It was, let's try to get there. And so 2014 officially is when that happened. And then, 2021 is when there was an opportunity, and ownership said, hey, will you look over these other areas too? And it is a big step, but at some point you sit there and think, yeah, that's something that I would like to take on. And, and then, Ray and Neil said, hey, will you do this for the rest of the operation too? And so really since January, I've been trying to get up to speed on, our operations team. We got a great group here that manages the building and everything that comes with that, IT department. There's a lot that goes into running this whole operation. And so those were areas that I needed to be a little more educated on and try to figure out what we do, how we do it, why we do it. And at the end of the day, try to make the experience for the fans, reduce as much friction as possible for people coming to games.
What are some of the challenges you face about, generating revenue?
Yeah.
For this team in this sports market, in baseball in general?
Yeah. When we look at it, we're in a big market, right? I think this is the fourth biggest market in the country now. For us, it's in baseball, for every team, even the Dodgers, the biggest thing you do is sell tickets. And that's different than the other sports. When you think about football, the national TV money's so big in sports like, the NFL that, and they play so few games, it's selling tickets. I don't want to say it's an afterthought, because they do generate revenue there, but they're in a good spot. Our bread and butter and what we do here is selling tickets.
Yeah.
And so we need Rangers fans to come out to Arlington, support the team. Baseball's still the most affordable of the big four. And so people can, still do it affordably. And then we've got, great options too if if your wallet's a little bit deeper, to sit in a suite like this. And so we have great options, but it's getting people out to the ballpark. And then, as you talked with Angie on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, we had the challenge for a number of years of making sure our fans could watch our game. I mean, think about a sport that doesn't allow fans to watch the product. And so when and she told the story of it, but when we endeavored to go do this a little more than a year ago and decided, hey, we're going to bring this in-house, the number one goal was to make sure that we got our games to every fan within our 5-state region that wants to watch our game. And now I don't have to answer questions anymore when people would say, hey, I can't watch your games. I can't watch your games. It's like, yeah, you can.
That's got to be nice.
It's great. There's 15 of them that are on free over-the-air television this year.
Yeah.
Victory Plus is a great option, $100 for the full season option, 62 cents a game, I think was the math on that. So anybody in our 5-state region could do that. And then we've got the more traditional options, on the linear side with great partners like DirecTV and Charter and Fubo and folks like that. And so that helps us. It helps us expand the fan base. Our fans are able to watch games now, which they weren't before. And so we kind of had to retrench there, but we accomplished the goal, and we had a pretty big revenue bucket there we had to try to go refill.
That whole thing has changed a ton from the days of HSE and
no question.
and all the, no knock on HSE, because when I found out HSE was coming in the market and what it was going to be, day one I was there. I was in, no questions asked, and I stayed in and always have been in, and where, regardless of whatever it's morphed into over the years. But this that you're doing now does seem a whole lot more easily accessible and, financially sensible.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you said. Going way back in the day, you can remember this. I loved it when the Rangers played on the road because the games were on TV. Yeah, Dave Carpenter and Jim Sundberg, right? And it's like, hey, here we go, live from Detroit. And that's when I got real familiar with Mark Holtz and Eric Nadel, too, because I had to listen to the home games.
Yes.
And then it did kind of come around. So what we did on this new project, because I was like you, I had DirecTV forever. I could always watch the Rangers games. I would always get a little irritated when fans would tell me, I can't watch your games. I'm like, well, you can. You're just choosing not to right now. But what we did is we built this to meet the fans where they want to be. And so if you're, a streaming person, or maybe you're somebody that never had a traditional linear, maybe you're just a Netflix Max person, and that's how you get your entertainment, Victory's your option. Maybe you don't want to do any of that and you only want to dabble in some Rangers games. Great. We're on the CW, 15 times this year. All you need is the rabbit ears. Or whatever they call them now. I don't even know what those antennas look like, but
Yeah, they're digital antennas
yeah,
now.
something like that.
Make it make sense.
It's free.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
What does that look like? What does a digital antenna look like?
Kind of round, right? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't either. I'm a DirecTV guy, so
Yeah. So, and a lot of people were that watch games, but only about 16% of our marketplace was able to watch the games based on where Bally's at the time where their distribution was. And now 100% of our market, if you say, well, there's no traditional cable subscriber, I don't want DirecTV, Victory's the way to go. And they've been great about it, and we've done so good on Victory that we're one of the top teams in Major League Baseball as far as subscriptions to watch the team this year.
What did it look like from your side to get RSN going?
Well, there's a
I realize
lot.
it's a very all-encompassing question.
It is, and I'll tell you, because when last year started, one of the things I added, kind of underneath my umbrella was the broadcast department, and so Angie had to train me up on what some of that. I didn't even know what master control was. I didn't know what transmission was. So I got a crash course on all that and trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to do? But the best part about it was starting from scratch and saying, okay, I remember Angie and I were sitting in my office. We said, okay, if we're going to start this from scratch, what do we want this broadcast to look like? What kind of cameras should we have? What should the resolution look like? Microphones. Can we mic up players? Let's go talk to CY. Let's go talk to Ross and see what kind of things we can do. A lot of crazy ideas, a lot of different stuff we were doing. But when you're starting from scratch, and it's only left to your imagination, and we do have some limitations, of course, but it was fun to go do that because, I remember when we decided, most people may not know this, but we decided to go with a higher resolution because we said, you know what, when you turn this game on before you ever hear Dave Raymond's voice, I want somebody to go, wow, this looks cool.
yeah.
And so things like that, examples like that, going through the whole process down to picking different kinds of cameras and can we use drones?
So you guys had to buy all the gear for it and everything, huh?
Correct.
All the cameras and all the...
A little bit. There's certain cameras that we bought and we own. There's other cameras that it's part of the deal that you have with the production truck company.
Yeah.
The big cameras that you see in the fixed positions come with the truck.
Yeah.
I didn't know that last year, so
Wait,
this is all stuff you learn.
I actually do have a question because I'm a nerd about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So are y'all in 8K then?
No.
Okay.
We're not even in 4K, but we went to a higher resolution than 720, which was being delivered before.
Interesting.
And there was a reason why we didn't go even higher because it involves replays and the amount of time it takes to render those, and the number of cameras that would have been available to do that.
Yeah.
Which, when you start thinking about that, actually affects the game. Because if something happens in a game and you have fewer cameras to show a replay, then they can't. There's not as many ways for them to see if a guy was safe or out. So
For sure.
there's different ways that we went about that and made decisions accordingly.
Oh, wow.
What do you do when the off season rolls around? The first thing you go in there and sit down on your couch and just go,
No, I mean, we're already working on next year. So the off season's busy time for those of us in the front office. So that's sales time. That's between season tickets, sponsorships, and other things we're working on for the next year. That's the busy time. We just don't have to stay late at night to watch a baseball game.
yeah.
But I mentioned I went to University of Oklahoma, and I've been a season ticket holder ever since I graduated. And so I pay attention to Oklahoma football and Rangers baseball and hang out with my family outside of that.
Pretty good
All right.
life.
That's a good plan.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. So, yeah, it's pretty fun.
It is a good plan. So where do you see all this going, man? Where's the idea of broadcasting baseball and getting baseball out there in the media? And I mean, as you look down the road, what do you see?
Well, we don't know. The deals that we put together are relatively short term. We don't know where the league is headed with national TV contracts when those are up in a handful of years. And so we've tried to remain flexible enough that we can deliver to the fans now our games. And then as the market continues to change, hopefully we're nimble enough to to be able to, figure out where that is. There may be an opportunity. You've seen it in the NBA where national TV deals have become bigger and more games may be soaked up in that regard and are going to different streaming partners. And how many different, services do you need to have to watch all the NFL games now?
Yeah.
Right? There's a handful of them. Netflix, Prime. There's a lot going on there. And so, we're going to try to stay nimble to make sure that as we built this out this year and got our games to all the fans, that we have the opportunity to continue to do that going forward. And our sport's different because we play every night.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of games. And so from a national perspective, what Commissioner Manfred and his crew decides to do there with the number of games and how they get that out as part of national deals, and then what remains with us at the club level. And we'll, make sure we're nimble and flexible enough to get it out there. We've got great partners right now. I mentioned Victory and our other partners, Fubo, Charter, DirecTV, and those folks. And we'll see how that changes too, because it's obviously morphed quite a bit. Maybe it's settled into a spot now where a lot of people have what they have and they like it, but that doesn't mean it won't change in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting seeing, this year, I know we had one weekend where we had a game on RSN, then we had a game on Apple, then we had a game on Fubo, I believe.
No, it was on Roku.
I'm sorry. So it's been interesting just seeing, streaming. I think I just saw that this year is the first year where streaming and digital has overtaken cable and satellite in terms of viewership. So it's been interesting seeing, how much do you keep emphasizing streaming versus cable, satellite, and where does it all go?
Yeah, we're just trying to make it available to everybody, again, however they want to consume the product. And then, as I mentioned, we've got that's a pretty large revenue bucket we got to refill. And so we're keeping our eyes on how everything shifts and, and how that works into us. But, yeah, that's the Astros series earlier this year.
That's right, yeah.
Talking about where we were, Thursday night, I think it was, we were on RSN. Friday was on Apple. Saturday was on Fox. Sunday was on Roku, and everybody gets frustrated, but those national games, there's nothing we can do about that. Friday night Apple game and the Sunday Roku game. Sunday nights on ESPN that a lot of people already knew about and have. And then there's the occasional TBS or FS1 game. But I will tell everybody, if you follow the Rangers on Twitter, when we post the lineup every single night, it says what channel we're on at the bottom. So that's where they can always find where the games are, because I know they can be challenging. Of course, forgot to mention the CW games as well on Friday nights when Apple doesn't pick us up. So we tried to basically say, look, it's RSN and CW, Nexstar in the outer markets to watch the games this year, and kind of that three-legged stool so we could get the games to as many people as possible.
Yeah, but hey, being on national TV is definitely not a bad thing. If your team's good enough for that, then you're in a pretty good spot.
Now, the league is limited to 17 games a year that they can pick up nationally and kind of go from there.
So as you guys get together and talk about what's down the road for this thing, this is probably not the time of year when you do that. I would imagine that these are discussions that are had in the off season. But as you start to look that way, what's the biggest issue this thing faces?
Yeah, look, we want to be a top franchise in Major League Baseball. We want to be considered one of the best. We think we have the best building to play baseball in. So when you start looking down the list of things that we need to do, and we need to play great baseball every night too. And that's part of it. Ownership's committed to that. You've seen it with the payroll we have. You've seen the work that CY and Ross do to put a competitive roster on the field. I mean, this is...
I also saw the game that Jacob deGrom threw last night, too, so there's that.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, you've probably watched the Rangers since 1972, right?
I have.
Have you ever seen better pitching than what we're getting this year?
No, I have absolutely not.
That's right. And that guy that pitched last night's the best on the planet when he's on. And so fans need to understand that. We haven't seen that since Nolan, pitched here. And we've got a couple others, too. One of them that's going to pitch tomorrow night coming back off the IL and in Evo, and how great he was for us in the postseason at 23 and everything that he did. And so this pitching staff is fantastic, and we don't need the offense to be, lights out. We just, we need to be competitive each night and scoring a few more runs than we have, but we think that's coming around. And like I said, it's a long season. Let's see how it goes, and let's see where we're at. Only a couple games out of the wild card, and the division's still not out of reach yet either. And so when we look at the future, it's television's front of mind. we got to look at the different revenue streams we have, how we protect those. But it's never going to change. People need to come out here to Arlington, support the squad, come to games, and that helps us quite a bit too. Television's what we pay attention to, sponsorship, things along those lines is kind of what we look at. And there's some other things on the fringes that catch our attention from time to time as well. Spring training facilities, things along those lines. And so, this is, what are we in, year 6 here in the building, year 5 with fans? Do I have that right?
I believe so.
And so it's still new. It's still the newest ballpark in baseball, but the A's are underway in Vegas with their new ballpark, and we'll see what Tampa does there too. But we want to make sure that we still have one of the best facilities, for players, because without this building, I think you could question as to whether or not some of these free agents that signed here would have come here.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
So,
this is a good place to play.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have been back in the amenities for the players, but it takes a backseat to no one.
You want to take us on a tour?
Yeah, I will someday, not today.
Okay, fair enough. Had to ask.
Not today, but someday.
Something under your umbrella I don't think we've talked about yet is actually the Junior Rangers program. I know that's pretty near and dear to your heart.
It is. I was a Junior Ranger when I was a kid. So.
Really?
Yeah, we laugh in the office. I always tell them, and the reason it's important to me is because we've got some data that shows how many Junior Rangers turn into season ticket holders down the road. But we always laugh, too, because they said, or future employees, right? Kind of laugh about it. So, you get kids when they're young, and that's when fandom happens, right? That's when I became a fan of the Rangers, and so that it's an important program to us to get as many kids as possible involved in it. And, we try to provide value there too, but part of it is getting them out to they get tickets as part of the, all the swag that they get, and coming out to games, they get to run the bases before all the other kids on those days. So, it's a program that's important to us, and not just because I was one.
Fair enough.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing, man. You got this thing headed in a better direction than it's ever been headed in.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and thank you guys for coming out here. Thank you for having me on, and appreciate y'all's support and everything that he does every night to make all the magic happen in here.
Yeah,
so.
I just click a couple buttons.
But he does it better than everyone.
That's right. You do it in that way that only you can.
That's right.
See, you just don't understand that, Shoopy.
I don't understand anything.
That's right. And he preaches the gospel of the Rangers, and so we appreciate that as well.
Yes, he does. All right, that is your Dark Companion for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend. Tell a friend, or check us out on Spotify, on YouTube, wherever you find your podcasts. That's what they say these days. Thanks for watching. Once again, Mike Rhyner here. Bye. Hey man, Mike Rhyner of your Dark Companion here. Stolen Water is sponsoring the Super Soaked Shirts race at Riders Field. The first race is tonight, and the clubhouse is going to be out there. Join them for their podcast pregame, and then meet them in the Lazy River for the race. First pitch is tonight at 7:05.
All right. I'm going to go take my pants off.
Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.